If you have ever said yes to a client, even though it didn't quite feel right, just to keep the peace, get that happy review, or close that deal, then today is for you. This is people pleasing costing your business? Hint, yes, it is. And I'm going to show you exactly how and why being flexible drains your profit. It also drains your inner being and your soul that we'll see here. Hey everyone, my name is Acacia Thornton. I'm the CEO, legal coach, longtime attorney, and business advisor. And I help business owners elevate their businesses and then have the contracts and the documents, the clauses, whatever they need to keep that success they've worked together up and running towards their future. Now, today is the Aligned Business Series, which happens 3 times a week. And this is where you get to ask your questions live about real world stories. I'm going to tell you some real world stories today that other business owners have been going through. And we're going to look under the hood at solutions that were available to them to not only get them through what they were dealing with, but how to prevent it all together. Yes, even though you might find that you are a people pleaser or that you fall into that camp, I want you to know that being a business owner, running a business, well, it's by you, because of you, and through you, not everything about you needs to be in the business. And as you're going to see here, your contracts can do a lot of the boundaries for you. You don't have to do all the work, love. You have support. And I'm going to give you the exact clauses and information you need to succeed today. So why is it, just for a second here, why is it that people pleasing costs us money to begin with? Like, let's just kind of break that down for a second. Because the very first and most important thing as a business owner, when it comes to sustaining the business, to growing that business, to thriving in that business, what is most important is that you protect what makes you money and you increase its ability to do so. You protect what makes you money and its ability to do so, which usually means what? Your time, your brain, your strategy, your expertise, everything that you are. Maybe it's your vibes, your energy, maybe it's the way you coach and speak to people as a leader. So whatever your deliverables are that brings in your unique selling proposition. What is different about you versus your competitors? These are all the things that make you money, which means they're all the things we want to make sure we have a proper value exchange on, and that we're taking the time to set the right boundaries about them so that the business has what it needs to thrive and grow. And then when the business thrives and grow, you yourself, get that higher salary. You get to go do the types of challenges and bring the offerings to the types of people and clients you want to do. So when we support the business, it supports us back. So where are some of the common ways that I see business owners get too flexible or given too much in that, people pleasing? Let's just go through a few of them. I want you, because yes, the chat is going. I see a few of you in there. Hey, I want you to let me know which one of these sounds more like you. Which one of these are you guilty of? Accepting last minute red lines and changes without evaluating the costs, removing protective clauses just to keep a client happy. What about adding extras into the scope, into the project? Maybe they're about to sign that contract. They're like, oh, you know what? Can we add this? And you're just like, sure, throw it in there. But maybe you would normally have charged for it. You let the scope stay vague. And then as the project's happening, the client gets to direct where things are going. They get to change. They get to decide whether or not they're happy enough to let you be happy. Ooh. Yeah. Yeah. Some of us do that one, right? We don't realize that it's your project. You get to stay in charge of how your business and your expertise operate in that space. But so many times we're like, whatever the client needs, whatever I want the client to make them happy. And some other areas that I've seen it is agreeing to unlimited calls, edits, reschedules. Maybe you add a few. Oh, they didn't get over the hump in the coaching, so I'm going to add a few calls so we can get them to their goals. Maybe you started work without a signed agreement. That is one, believe it or not, that is people pleasing. That is saying, I care more about your deadlines and your needs and your urgency than I care about my deadlines, my business, or my business's urgencies. I'm going to pick your priorities over mine instead of making sure we're on the same page together. Holding space for disorganized clients. Yes, big one with coaching, right? Coaching, or whenever you have people who are starting up a business, so like website designers, logo designers. Yeah, I see you guys in there. I see you. Yeah, that's a big one, right? Holding space for those disorganized clients. And it can be like, well, I didn't know they were disorganized. They seemed great at the top, which is why it's so important to have these boundaries up front, as you'll see here. And then, of course, like stretching timelines. Oh, it's okay. You can get back to me next week. Don't worry. Oh, we don't have to have this project done this quarter. I can do it next week. All these things affect you because when you let something go into next week, well, next week, now you're still working on last week. You're still working in the past. You're not working on the next project, not bringing in the next client. You're not earning that next dollar. When you're accepting things last minute, you're letting somebody else's disorganization, their priorities, and whatever's going on in their lives dictate your life, dictate your schedule, dictate your energy and your vibes. When you let a client take control of a project, when you let them take control of the direction and the timing, the outcomes, all of these things, you're giving away your energy. You're giving away your time, your brain, and those deliverables, all those things that we said make you money. Those are your money makers. So anytime they go out the door, it is literally lost money because somebody would have paid for you to do those things. Somebody would have taken that time from you and paid you for it instead of this client who's not paying you extra for it, which is something we'll get to. I'll show you how you can actually get paid extra for the work, because not only can you, but you should. This is a business. It's a value exchange. They pay you for certain outcomes or deliverables, and you give those deliverables. Anything outside of that is outside of scope and deserves a value exchange. So I'm going to tell you 2 client stories. Or actually, I'm just going to give you, we already ran a little bit long. I'm going to go with just the one client story, but this is just something that happens with so many business owners. And so this is one she's both a coach, a business coach, and she's been in business a while, I think like 5-7 years now. She also does design work, designs logos, creates websites. She used to work in an agency. She's phenomenal at her job. So her client list is pretty long. And she had this solopreneur sign up for both of her services to be her business coach and then also help her create the logo on the website. And so it was a 3-month coaching package, call every week, and then the design elements as part of the deliverables. So my client, was showing up every call. Okay, here's what we're gonna get through today. And here's what I prepared for. Here's, the samples. Here's whatever the mock-ups were. And her client would come back with oh my God, I got so busy. I got so busy this week, I couldn't get to it. And then another week, like, okay, I'm so indecisive about stuff. I don't know. Oh, this is going on. Oh, I can't. For 3 months. For 3 months, this goes on. To where at the end of those 3 months, AKA the end of the coaching package, there is still not anything other than the logo decided on. Nothing about that website is up and running. Nothing about those marketing materials is up and running because the coaching client just wasn't there, right? Disorganized. She wasn't there mentally. She wasn't there emotionally. She didn't prioritize done. What does done look like? What does done feel like? But my client, the coach, was trying to do that because she can only handle 5 or 6 clients at a time. Well, if this client is still on her docket, she can't get to a next one. But she really wanted to help out her client. She was like, look, I believe in this girl. She's good. I believe in her. I'm like, okay. So she gave her another 9 months of calls. 9 months of 2 to 4 calls a month, trying to get this girl to build her business and get it over the finish line. And this was one of the things that caused them a problem, is I never really decided when was the finish line. Is delivering the website the finish line? How far into the website? How many pages of the website? What about that logo? What about the marketing materials? Is it just that they're done and that the other girl has them? Or is it that they're usable and they had outcomes? A lot of vagueness. And they had contracts. They had a contract for each of these things, but they realized they never really defined a lot of these things. They just kind of thought they'd figure it out or know what they needed. And so after these extra 9 months, so 9 months plus 3 months meant this thing went on for a year. A year. She decides, that's it. I have to cancel this contract. I have to cancel this client. I can't do this anymore. I've gone 3 extra quarters of unpaid work trying to help this woman get her business to a good starting point. And the worst part is after all of that giving, after all of that heart, after all of that exhaustion, trying to please her client, she ended up having to refund 80%. Why? Because her contract focused on the deliverables, not the boundaries, not done, and not each party's responsibilities. It said that the client was paying for a logo, for marketing materials, for a website, and so on. Well, guess what? Those marketing materials, that logo, they were never delivered. She had to refund it all. That really was a kick in the pants, right? That really hurts. And that's a great example of how overgiving and not being clear about how you want to work in the beginning. And it's not between you and your client, it's you. It's you. Because if there's one thing that this story has in common with that big list of all those overgivings that we talked about, is that it's all about lost money. All of it is lost money. And money is blood to a business. Without the money, there is no business. It's not alive, no matter how alive you are. But when you're overgiving like that and you're putting other people first over and over again, and then the business first and not yourself, it's not sustainable. It's not sustainable. And so this is where generosity and high integrity workers who give heart to their business and their clients sometimes end up crashing, burning out, just feeling bad, feeling like a failure. And it's not you, love. It's not you. It never was you. It was that you were giving without receiving. That value exchange, giving without receiving, is what's wrong here. This is what went wrong, not you what you wanted to give. It's okay to be you. That's what makes you great. That's what makes your business so unique, is you. We don't want to change you. We want to change how you're getting your value exchange back. So, okay, let's talk through 2 key ways. The very, 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 very big one that is a value exchange that a majority of contracts, I don't care if you got it offline, I don't care if you got it from AI or what, it's not going to have this. And in the rare circumstance it does, it was not customized for you. So I need you to get one customized. It's called a scope creep clause. A scope creep clause. Okay. And what is a scope creep clause? A scope creep clause is a sentence in your contract that says, you might ask me for this, client. This is what is included. This is where the boundary is. And this is what happens when you go beyond it. This is the value exchange for more. 2 revisions are included. If you want more revisions, I'm happy to be there to support you. I'm happy to continue this relationship and loving you and being your cheerleader and success person. But those revisions take my heart. They take my time. They take my expertise. But they also take me away from giving to somebody else. So I need a value exchange for that. That's a scope creep clause. And clients, your customers, actually are going to love these things. Because think about it. When you've been the customer in something and you see that in there, you get to do what? Make better informed choices. You don't just say, well, okay, 2 revisions were included. You now get to say, okay, 2 revisions are included, but if I need a 3rd one, that's going to cost me $250. Okay, I can decide now. I either have to get my ducks in a row, make my decisions, get everything I need done by the end of that 2nd revision, or I need to decide that it's worth spending that extra money on. See how it empowers them to make better informed decisions. Because if there isn't that value exchange in there, not only can you not ask for it and you can't legally enforce it, you can if it's in your contract, but it leaves your client being like, okay, well, it just says two were included. I want more. They don't know. Uncertainty kills a lot. It kills a lot. So by adding this added clarity and the scope creep clause into your contracts, you are going to create better customer relationships, and you're going to get paid because the scope creep clause says what the value exchange is. So what I've done is, because I always promise you guys I will make sure that I have everything you need right here, right now, as I put together the scope creep playbook. Okay. The scope creep playbook is going to walk you through everything that the scope creep clause does, why you want it, why you need it. And then I've made 12 different real world examples. And then I've also broken them down by service providers, coaches, consultants, online, physical products. I think there's one or two others. So you could see, and every one of them has multiples. Every one of those has multiples in there. So you can see all the different ways they get used. So you can see all the different ways that you might want to, because other people in your industry are using them this way. And you can just copy paste them right into your contracts. They are designed to literally be copy paste. You don't have to change a thing about them. And then, unless you want to, of course you can. But then I also put into the playbook an area where you get to create your own. I made a fill in the blank. You'll have one in under 30 seconds. Just fill in the blanks with what's important to you, and then copy paste that into your agreement. It's also going to give you a script that you can use with your clients. So you don't have to feel worried about conflict. So you don't have to feel worried about enforcing a boundary. Because guess what? You don't have to. Your contract just did it for you. All you have, when you put something into the contract, your client, when they sign it, is agreeing. They're saying yes to it already. And like I said, they're probably going to appreciate the clarity and boundaries, but they've said yes. So now your only job is, instead of being like, this feels weird, I don't know what to do, I don't know what to say, you can just simply remind them of what they agreed to in your contract. That's all you've got to do, is just remind them, hey, this is what we agreed to. Much, much simpler, right? So that's what the scope creep playbook is. I see some questions coming in already. Don't worry, guys. I will get to them. I promise. So you can already see that that's what you're able to do. And you can do these instantly. And you can have as many of them as you want or need. So for example, the story I told you earlier about that coaching and design, she could have said that her scope creep clause could have said, if more than 12 calls are needed, this is the price. And I bet her client wouldn't have dragged it on for an extra 9 months if she knew she had to pay for all of them, right? Oh, my extras are going to cost me $300 each. Okay, I'll get these answers figured out in the next month, right? Suddenly that 9-month becomes a 3-month project. So it becomes a lot clearer. It keeps things on track, and it gives you that value exchange. It also would have helped out with the design work, because it would have said, this is where the boundary is. This is all I have to promise to deliver to you. Once once these like little check marks are done, we're done. And that's the second part, is there's an acceptance clause. Acceptance clause is where the finish line is. Done means done, because delivery does not always mean done. If you can deliver something and your client can still ask for revision, ask for more, so that it's not done. We want to know where the finish line is. That's an acceptance clause. So the acceptance clause plus the scope creep clause, they do all the work for you. You don't have to come up with the words. You don't have to get into the ring with them. They've already agreed to it. They've already said yes. All right, so I see the questions. Let me get in here. Where are they? I got to scroll up a bit. Ooh, there's a lot in here. Okay, what do we got? Okay. What if I've already given extra support to my client? Can I charge for it now? Okay, so if you want to apply this retroactively, first look at what's in the contract, because that's what everybody has agreed to. And you need to follow that. You don't want to be in breach of contract. So it's one of the reasons to have this in the contract. So the contract guides your relationship with your client and through the project. After that, it becomes a little it comes down to how you do it. But I will say, if it's not in the contract, you can't legally enforce it. So an example would be is, let's just say, okay, you had listed 2 revisions are included, and now they want a 3rd revision, but your contract's silent on that. And you're like, okay, not a problem, client, happy to do that 3rd one. That it's going to be $250. They could come back and be like, we never agreed to that. Or you've never said that before. I didn't know that. So, which is why if it's in the contract that already says 3rd revision is $250, they already know that. So you can find yourself in that bit of a challenge. The earlier you can get ahead of it, the more you can bring the clarity into the communication, the better. So maybe being when you get to that 2nd revision, be like, client, just want to let you know we're heading into our 2nd revision right now. This is the last one that is included. If you wanted any others, there's going to be an additional charge. Now they can make an informed decision about the 2nd revision, right? Talking about how we want to empower them to make an educated decision and not be forced into a decision. And that all comes with communication. So if you've already given that extra support, can you charge them for it now? Probably not after the fact. It always comes down to what's in your contract, which is why you want a scope creep clause in your contract ASAP. All right, what else do we have? What do I say when a client keeps canceling and rescheduling on me, but I want to keep the relationship? Okay, so what to do when a client keeps canceling or rescheduling meetings and calls on yourself? You can put a different, so like a time policy, an appointment policy is a form of a scope creep clause. Yeah, it's a scope creep clause that says if you cancel within this amount of time or reschedule within this amount of time, this is the outcome. This is the value exchange, right? We talked about how a scope creep clause says, this is what you might ask me for. You might ask me to reschedule or be late to something. This is what's included. You must tell me at least 24 hours ahead of time. Or if you're more than 5 minutes late, this is the trigger, right? So you'll only have so much you're going to tolerate. That's what's included. Here's what happens after. If you reschedule less than 24 hours before an appointment, the appointment is forfeited. The next appointment will come with a $50 upcharge, right? Whatever the outcome is that feels right to you. This is your business. This is your value exchange, your boundary. How do you want to guide your clients here? So that's what I would say to them, is just letting them know. But first off, you do want to have this in writing. You don't want it to be something they get blindsided with. That's not fair to them. So give them a heads up for the first one, and then the one after that, then enforce it. Yeah. How do I know when I'm being flexible versus being taken advantage of? That's a great question. That's a great question. Who wrote that? Samuel, that is a great question. Okay, how do you know when you're being flexible versus when you're being taken advantage of? Simply, how does it feel to you? How does every inch of your soul, your mind, your emotions, your body feel? Because the value exchange matters where it's going to take you away from something that matters. Takes you away from the business, takes away from revenue, takes away from other client, takes away from your evening off. How does it feel to you? And then deciding, is that what you want? You don't have to say yes because it's a small ask. You don't have to say yes because you can. Capacity does not equal obligation. Just because you have Tuesday off does not mean you have to schedule an appointment because a client asked you for it. So knowing where your boundaries are, what makes you happy, set that, know that, feel, and like foundation, ground into that. And then then ask yourself about the ask, and ask yourself how it makes you feel. Because that's the difference. We can't know somebody else's intention. We can only know who we are and how it makes us feel and how we're going to feel tomorrow morning when we're done. Beautiful question. Can you add a scope creep clause mid-project? So as we kind of mentioned earlier, you do need to have it in writing up front. That's the opportunity to get things in writing is up front. Of course, you can always go through the process of getting an amendment to the contract, but Other than that, it's going to rely on you verbally being ahead of things, laying that groundwork. Hey, this is the final sample, or you only have one sample left. Any others than that are going to cost this much. Let me know. And then you have to do all that extra work, all that extra communication, all that extra planning, all of those things mid-project. But can you do them? Yes, you can. Of course you can. This is your business. How do you want to communicate and do your relationships? The only thing that I would say is that it's not going to be legally enforceable. But that doesn't mean your client isn't going to appreciate it, right? The odds of you wanting to sue the client over it to begin with is probably small. So, yep. Yeah, good question. Okay. And don't forget, guys, that that playbook has these scripts in it for you. It's got a lot of these things in it for you already. What if my contract already says no refunds or something similar, but I feel bad enforcing it? Okay. So this isn't about your client. This isn't about what's in your agreement. This is about you. Why do you feel bad doing what you agreed to, what you said you would do? When we sign our clients on a client agreement, it's not just them who's promising, it's us who's promising. It's one of the main reasons, well, actually, there's a lot of reasons why you want customized contracts, is that contract represents you, how you do things. So why do you feel bad doing what you said you would do on paper? We either want to change what's on paper because it doesn't align to who you are, which you can totally do for on your templates and change it on moving forward, or ask yourself, what about this? Maybe it's something you've learned or a past experience, something that just an inner child that needs a little love to get through that. Because if you already have those words there, it is your choice whether or not to enforce them. And if you're choosing not to, that's what I would look into. Yep. All right, all. This has been Acacia, the CEO legal coach. I will see you on Friday, where we continue to talk about client boundaries and making money from them. I'll see you all there.